Hi, it's Jo Bills and Steve Spencer from Freshagenda here on a rainy day at Victoria Park, and we just thought we'd give a bit of an update about the Oceania region, didn't we, Steve?
We did.
Yeah. So we've got some milk production figures out for July. Milk production was up about 2.7%. It's only the second month that there's been a positive year-on-year change in national milk production since October 2015, Steve. You thought it was a bit disappointing though as an increase?
Well, I think because last year's numbers were so low at this time of year, there was such a drop following the response to the deep cuts in prices that maybe the dry weather has impacted production and impacted the speed of that recovery, or maybe more cows left than we thought. Yeah,
that's right. But year to date for this current season, in the southern regions up about 3%, and for the northern regions up about 2%. And the other stats that have come out that we're looking at this week, Steve, are around drinking milk sales. They've come out for the 2016-17 year. Pretty flat overall, but some interesting trends within that category, particularly the drift towards full cream milk and away from no fat and reduced fat products. And what that's actually doing in terms of private label versus branded is interesting too, Steve.
So I'd expect that's pulling more back towards private label in that full fat category, where away from low fat, reduced fat products, where more designer milks are sitting in branded products.
That's right. Branded a much bigger share of those reduced fat products. People tend to choose on the fat content or the attributes they like, so brands are a lot more important. So as we see this drift back to full cream, we're also seeing that drift back to private label. So another thing people are interested in at the moment, Steve, is what's happening with milk prices, and we're still continuing to track our commodity milk value.
Our commodity milk value unfortunately has dipped and has been sliding for a number of weeks. It's down now to $5.50 a kilo milk solids. That is almost exclusively down to a 5 cent lift in the $A, which this week was up over 80 cents, which alarmingly is high. There's been a small fall in skim and butter values, but the great majority of that is all about the rising dollar. It's lowered 67 cents. Taken 67 cents off our milk value in that time.
It's a significant impact, isn't it?
It is. Look, there's been quite a bit of response to the question of milk prices. You ran an article last week about Australian versus New Zealand prices. What's that all about?
Yeah, look, we've seen a fair bit of discussion on Twitter about Australia versus New Zealand, and this often comes up when Australia's behind New Zealand, that a lot of local farmers are asking why. Luckily, we've written an article for Dairy News Australia. It's also up on our website, just comparing the two industries, why perhaps they're not as comparable as they used to be, and some of the explanation for the difference in those prices, particularly in the current year. So if you haven't already, please check it out on our website. And while we're talking about New Zealand, Steve, wet here, wet over there as well.
I think wetter over there, we're here. Yeah. So what's the latest on that?
Yeah, look, we're seeing quite wet conditions across the country. Soil moisture anomalies of 10 to 20 millimetres across the country. So they are, again, looking set for a pretty positive season in terms of milk production. But there's also been a lot of discussion about dairy around the upcoming New Zealand election, Steve. We also ran a blog article about some of the water discussions that are happening over there in the lead up to the election. But there is some bipartisan agreement on one issue, isn't there, Steve?
There is. Both main parties have come out and said they acknowledge that New Zealand has reached peak cow. So no further intensification or expansion of the geographic reach of dairy. So that going forward would suggest that the community is capping dairy's growth, which is quite an interesting outcome.
Yeah, it is very interesting. So, Steve, anything else we want to say about Australia versus New Zealand? We certainly don't want to talk about the rugby or the netball.
But you've mentioned them, so I think it's a good time to wrap.
That's a wrap from us. It's Jo and Steve from Freshagenda. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.